Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder of Publish Your Purpose, and I am here with Midge Noble as we celebrate your book launch of Gay with God. How are you doing, Midge?
I'm great. I'm absolutely great. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I am too, and I honestly, I feel like a broken record. I say this all the time. There's nothing more magical than this moment where it's like all of the hard work, all of the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the lots of different things kind of happening, all come
Mhm.
together. We can actually just sit and celebrate. Where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like we did this thing,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a shocker.
and but we're here, and we
Yep.
made
Yep.
it happen. So I'm
Yep.
just gonna hold up your book for a moment because your book is called Gay with God.
Oh,
And I think your cover is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's a
I
thing of
love it.
beauty. And I feel like it might be obvious to someone listening what your book is about, but maybe it's not. So can we just start there and then I'll just kind of guide us from that point on?
Yes. So I wrote this memoir because I struggled for such a long time to come out to myself first and to be able to balance my religious upbringing with who I was discovering myself to be. And it took me 30 years to do it. So when I was finally able to reclaim that name God, because I had put it away, I couldn't say it. It just made me feel so awful, because it was always connected to abomination and you're going to
Mhm.
hell. And when I finally was able to come through all of that, and the first thing that I thought when somebody said something about writing the book, well, not the first thing. The first thing was returning to the pew without puking, because that's how
Still
hard
love
it
that
was
one.
for me to even try to return back to the church. But being gay with God resonated with me on such a deep level, because it's not just that I am gay, but I'm now with a relationship with the God of my understanding. And so being gay and happy and gay and being authentically me, it all blended together. And
Mm.
so it's a whole story of how I was able to reclaim my faith and honor my story, because my story, even though it may be similar to everyone else's, it's still uniquely my story. And I had to look back into the past and not hold myself in such deep regret or anger at things that happened, and just reclaim all of it and honor it.
I love that, and I do remember the conversations when you were in our writing cohort, and we're talking about
Mhm.
returning to the pew without puking because it fits. It's very fitting of your sense of humor and personality. However, Gay with God clearly,
Mm.
it just has a nice alliteration to it. Like there's just something
Mhm.
special about it. But also you have a
Mhm.
podcast with that title too. So it makes it really
Yes.
easy for folks. So how long have you had your podcast?
I've had my podcast for more years than it's been Gay with God. So this is like my fourth season, but I started out as an Awakened Hearts podcast. And then as I continued to grow into myself and be able to put myself out into the public world, I knew that Gay with God had to be where I landed, because it's like I am my brand. It's what
Mhm.
I do, it's what I talk about, it's how I live.
Yeah.
Much to some people's chagrin, but it is who I am, and
Yeah.
I can't not talk about that people can be gay with the God of their understanding, and that they don't have to think of suicide, they don't have to be scared of church, they don't have to believe that God hates them. That's my message, and that's what I'm trying to get out into the world.
Mm. Is there, like just thinking about who this book is for,
Mhm.
because I think you just kind of hit on like just the struggles
Mhm.
of LGBTQ plus people in relation to religious organizations, affiliations,
Mhm.
and whatever that might look like. And I know
Mhm.
for you, you always say the God of your understanding, which I always appreciate because you're not
Mhm.
forcing any specific, you know, um, viewpoint on anybody because
Right.
it is more broad than I think a lot of times when someone thinks of God, they have like a really kind of specific definition, perhaps.
Right. Right.
So if someone's, there's clearly the queer person who might be struggling. You use the word gay as kind of your overarching word. I use queer as an overarching word. Clearly, there's a lot
Mhm.
of different ways that we can slice this community, but the
Mhm.
LGBTQ community a whole, like clearly there's a component of folks who are part of the community who are struggling and they're
Mhm.
trying to find that there's a path forward for them.
Mhm.
But is there a component of this for people who are surrounding somebody who might be struggling with their identity? And what might that look like for someone who might just be listening and thinking, wow, there's someone in my life that I might want to get this book for?
Yeah. I think being an ally and having this book available in your awareness is really important, because anyone who loves someone who is gay, who may still have questions about whether or not they're going to hell or not going to hell, it's important to remember that we don't even know who made God. So,
Mhm.
there aren't all the answers in the Bible, people. I'm sorry to break the big bubble. There are things that aren't clear. So, not understanding everything is okay. And my book is not a book that's like heavy into scriptural interpretation and all of that. I've gone through that. I know what I feel like it says. But for you as an ally or a parent or a grandparent, aunt or uncle, whoever you are, even if you're a teacher, being able to have this at your disposal to let either people know about it or to gift it to them
Mhm.
or to be able to just put in your own head, as you read my book, yeah, maybe there's a possibility that what we've read and been taught might not be exactly right. And I of course, because I wrote the book and I lived through my story, I really do believe that the interpretations of the word homosexuality and homosexual in the Bible have really been misinterpreted. And a new documentary will be coming out, I hopefully soon, that everyone can access, called 1946. 1946 is the year that the word homosexual, as we understand it today, was reinterpreted into the Bible. Before that, it didn't mean the same thing in the Greek.
Mm.
So we have all probably been misled in one way or another. And the message just keeps rotating through all of the religions, who preach that. And I think it's a shame that myself and others have suffered for so long trying to be Christian, if that's what we were choosing to be, and be authentic.
Mhm.
And no one should suffer through what we've been through, and no one should have to go to such depths of thinking, well, I'll just kill myself. If I'm going to hell anyway, I might as well die. And
Mhm.
that's exactly what I told my therapist the first time I went to figure out if I was gay. If I'm gay, I'm going to kill myself, because if I'm going to hell, I need to just go ahead and go, because I'm the type of person that I just get everything done. I'm not going to wait. And we can smile about that, and I laugh about it now, but everybody was scared for me to figure it out, because they
Mhm.
knew what my plan would be, because I can't live that way. And
Yeah.
thankfully I did not have to.
And that's what's the most beautiful thing now is that, before the book even came to be, which just came out on October 11th, you had this podcast because
Mm-hmm.
you were already doing this work by sharing, and that's what I think makes your podcast phenomenal. It's not just you talking to yourself, it's bringing
Mm-mm.
in other people and hearing their journeys of how they've been
Mm-hmm.
able to kind of reconcile their faith and their identity. And I think that there's something really magical about that. And what I,
And even
yeah.
and even if they don't have a faith, see, that's the thing.
Mhm.
People don't think they can come on my podcast because they don't have a relationship with the God of their understanding, or any God, and they don't want to. That's okay too,
Yeah.
because being gay with God is my gig. But you coming on and telling your coming out story and honoring your story, and wherever you landed, is not the bottom line. It's just that we get to celebrate our stories and be visible, and not be put back into a box or a
Yeah.
closet.
Yes. Closet if it were. Um, yeah, and I think because I was a guest on your
Yes.
podcast, and
Yes.
I have no affiliation with any particular God. I
Hmm.
have a negative one from the past. And we had a
Hmm.
perfectly wonderful conversation around it, because I think everyone is
Absolutely.
coming from a different place in their journey, which is what
Yes.
makes you very inclusive. As much as, there's going to be haters out there that are like, "Oh my God, she's promoting all of this, all these things that should be condemned." Really, you
Hmm.
are so incredibly inclusive in this message, and I think that's what makes it really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of unfriendlies out there, I'll call them. I had my big book launch at the Four Saints Brewing Company. Everybody near and around Asheboro, please come to Four Saints Brewing Company. They're a delightful group, and they have really good beer. So, but I had one there, and there was a whole table of people that when I started to introduce myself, because it wasn't just my event, it was still open to the public and people filtered in, and I knew that, and that was fine. But they had just been served and they left full mugs of beer on the table and walked out. And I didn't even notice. I was told that later, but I wasn't aware of that because I was in the moment. But yeah, so it's not always well received. And even in my own neighborhood, I'm the admin of our neighborhood Facebook group, and I've been told that I'm promoting sexual proclivities. And I told you this morning, it's like, I'm an educated woman. I am. I've been to college. I went to graduate school. I didn't know what the word proclivities meant. I had to look it up when he said that. I'm like, it sounds bad, especially when you put sexual in front of that. I don't think I've done anything inappropriate, and I have not. But just inviting my neighborhood to my book launch, like, really ticked this person off, and I'm like, wow, you know, it's not easy. Especially, I live in the South, and we are a Bible thumping, believing bunch down in here, and it's very hard to promote my book. I have a dear friend who's also an author, and she's written a novel and she's written children's books. She can go anywhere in town and set up an event and people will flock to her. I can't go just anywhere. Not everybody's knocking down my door for interviews. So, you know, if you guys have any affirming places near and around Asheboro, North Carolina, you just let me know. And I will come and talk with your group.
Yeah. And, I think what's interesting is that, book censorship and banning, it's been going on for as long as time. Like, it's always been something that's happened. However, the increase in it over the last probably 8 years, and even really intensely in the last 3, I would say, puts your book so squarely in the line of fire from so many different angles. And so I think that there's like a brave component to this too, right? Because having a podcast is one thing where it's out there, people can find it, people can hate you blind, like faceless on the internet. But when you put a book out there, it is a whole different can of worms, because your story in its not entirety, but a large majority of your story is in words, in writing, in black and white for people to pick up and criticize. So I am incredibly proud that I have partnered with you on this, because as I said to you, and I've said to others, I'm like, the more risk that something's going to get banned, I'm in. Like, just sign me up. Because there's so many publishers that don't want to touch anything that will cause any type of friction in any direction. And I don't care what the topic is. Like, I just, like, if it's going to be banned, like, I want to talk about it, because I think that somebody needs to kind of talk about it. So I'm curious, just from your perspective, because you are in the South and you already are, your book's been out for 2 weeks. So it is very, very new. And so I cannot wait for us to be conversing 6 months from now to see like what kerfuffle has occurred as a result of your book. But I'm curious, like, for your own mental health, your own kind of sanity as you navigate this, have you already received crap from others that you're just kind of dealing with? And do you have a plan for when other stuff kind of comes up eventually?
Well, here's my plan. My plan, as always, is I'm not quiet. And thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Scott is thanking me for being brave, and I really appreciate that. I don't want to lose my sense of me. And my sense of me, like you said, I've always been inclusive. I've always loved first. And I don't want to divide people. I want to welcome people. I really believe that all spiritual teachers, Jesus, Mahatma Gandhi, whoever it was, we all promote love first. Love. If you're Christian, we've heard that is the greatest commandment. Above all else, love. And that's something I can get behind. So I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care whether or not you believe I'm going to hell. I don't care whether or not you think I'm doing sexual proclivities. Now I love saying that word. It just rolls off your tongue. But anyway, so I want to be the uniter. I want to bring people together in conversation. The brave part does come in where we are being killed for being gay. In Florida, you can't even say the word gay. There's so many states that are cranking up the ability to be violent toward gay people. And our trans brothers and sisters know this in nth degree. So I know that there is the possibility that bad things can happen. But the only thing I know is that I'm called to do it. This is my life. It is who I am. It is what I was called to do. And I could not stop it, even when I wanted to stop it. I could not stop writing it. We got up to what, like 98,000 something words, and we weren't even done with part 4. But don't worry, it's really small now. Okay, we did editing. It's okay.
It is accessible and it's an easy read.
It is. So
yeah.
So it is dangerous to be out and proud and authentic. And yet, if we don't become visible and if we're not allowing ourselves to be out there, nothing will ever change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like being a role model for younger people, or just anyone that's not even younger from an age standpoint, but just younger in their journey and evolution of coming to terms with this intersectionality between, the God of your understanding and your sexual orientation. I think, and I feel like that's what I appreciate about how you talk about things, because I think you're raising awareness to how dangerous it is for LGBTQ people in this country present day. And there's plenty of people who want to argue that point and say it's not that big of a deal, but especially where you are, and especially there's a lot of just very conservative areas of this country that are incredibly dangerous. And then even in the most progressive of areas, there's still pockets of danger for folks. So there's really no place where you're ever just like fully able to just kind of be and exist. And so I think more books that are like yours and more, people out there just kind of talking about it and making like normalizing things. And I hate using that word, but I can't think of a different word right now.
Yeah. Well, assimilating people as people and not classifying us, and that was his point, that, you don't have to tell the whole world about, and he never said about being gay, but he always said you're pushing your agenda. You don't hear me going around talking about being a heterosexual. I said, you never had to. I said, you never had to, because everybody expects you to be who you are, but it's our lack of, all marginalized people are not visible. And we've had to. And if we had not done that for our Black brothers and sisters, they would also not have any kind of rights at all. So, yeah, I'm still standing. And as long as I'm still standing and breathing, I'm not done.
Not at all. And so if you were to fast forward in time, whatever period of time from now, like what's the, what is an email or a conversation or something that you're hoping that you will have?
Well, I want to have the conversation where someone says, I think you're wrong and I think you're going to hell, and then be willing to have a conversation that's civil, to come to a place of understanding that, maybe you're not. I don't expect them to go all in, but just, let me open up the possibility that, love is enough, and that we can come together as a country and accept all families, all couples, all people, and just stay in that place of love and compassion, because we've lost that in this country. We are not compassionate. We're isolated. We're out for just ourselves. We're not being so openly caring toward each other anymore. And I think that can shift back. I see everything as a circle. We have our ups and we have our downs, but we're always circling, because that's the way things go. We just come up and down, and we just need to stand in the tornado for a little bit and allow everybody to swirl around us. And what I want to be is the calm in the middle of the storm.
I love that. I love that you didn't just kind of make some grandiose, large, sweeping statement of impact, when really you're like, I just want to have a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with me and find a common ground. I think that is such an admirable goal, because that's really, to me anyway, is where the change happens. It's those individual conversations with people who are like, oh wow, I guess those gays aren't that bad after all, because they, have a positive interaction with somebody like yourself.
Right. And I just want it to be visible. I want people to find it. The people who need to have it, I want them to find it. I'm not shoving it down anybody's throat, but I'm offering it to the people who feel like they have to die, and they're never going to know that God still loves them.
Yeah. My hope is that, maybe someone watching has ideas of where you could go, or who you could speak with, or how to just make this, give you an even bigger platform to kind of get this message out there, because it really is saving lives. And I think that's what's incredible about all of it.
I'm available to Zoom into any of your book clubs. If you would like to have my book in your book club, I will Zoom in and be a part, and you can ask me anything.
Sure could. And I think I think you in a book club would be a grand old time, because number one, it's just a polarizing topic. So, out of a book club, there's not going to be a consensus. So there's that, which is great. But then also your ability to just think on the fly, and just your sense of humor in general. Because I think that, something like this could be written by somebody else, for example, like even just looking at it's not even the playfulness of the cover, but there is there's like a lighthearted allure to the cover, where this could have been very serious, very stoic, very monotone almost, but it's not. It's infused with who you are and your humor, because as you said before, you are your brand. And so I think having you as a guest would be so neutralizing for people, because you're not coming in guns a-blazing about how you're right and someone else is wrong, but you really are trying to bridge the divide between different and opposing viewpoints in some ways. So I think that'd be fantastic. So if anyone does have a book club and they're looking to shake things up a little bit, I think this book would be a great choice for it.
And I'm going to start the Gay with God book club from my side. And so if people have bought the book and they want to join me on the Gay with God book club, they can go to my Facebook page and join my group, Gay with God, the Facebook group, and all things happen from there. So
yes. So gaywithgod.com is where they can also purchase a signed copy of the book directly through you, which is fantastic. There's also, your book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Bookshop and Books A Million and all the other places. It's available in ebook, hardcover, paperback. So lots of options to access your book in a lot of different directions. I'm a big fan of sending people either to your website personally. That way, they can get a personalized copy, which is always more fun, in my opinion. I have my personalized copy, which is also part of my favorite part of this process. But then also, bookshop.org is the plug that I will make, because bookshop.org is a certified B Corp, which is something that I'm always talking about. So they have a commitment as a company to sustainability, to environment, people, and the planet before profits. And so they do a lot of good work for independent bookstores. So I always promote bookshop.org. Not a lot of people know about it, but your book is there too. So if someone wants to go check it out there, they absolutely can. Yes. And is there any other place, or in your podcast, so they can just go to, I was listening to your most recent podcast with Vicki Brown. Who was
it was awesome.
Oh my God. I was laughing listening to the two of you, which I think was this week's episode, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a great podcast. I highly recommend it. So people can just go to their podcast listening place of choice and type it in. I was able to get it on Apple Podcasts or whatever that thing is called now.
Yeah.
So any last words?
My last words is thank you, Jen. Thank you for making this possible, because if not for you and your openness and your generosity and your ability to just bring us all in and feel safe to be who we are and to write through this process, it was sometimes quite hard to do it. And your team and you made it absolutely possible. And I thank you for gifting me with my book, because it was because of you guys that I was able to tell this story.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I love that. You're welcome. Just that safe space, because it isn't easy. Yes. Writing a book is not an easy task, especially a book, especially a memoir. Not an easy road always, but you got through it. And now there's people being impacted by it in all directions.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Amazing.
Oh, and keep writing, Scott. Keep writing.
Absolutely. Yes, Scott, please just keep on keeping on. And if you need any support, I am available and happy to chat. Thank you so much, Midge. I will see everyone else very soon.